I was standing in the rain with a crying toddler, a dead car, and a phone battery flashing red at 2%. No umbrella, no help, just headlights flying past me like I didn't exist. My daughter was wrapped in a soaked blanket. My jacket was useless. I kept whispering, "It's okay, baby. We're okay," even though I wasn't sure we were. Roadside assistance said it would be over an hour. I didn't have an hour. I didn't even have $1 left on my card. When the tow truck finally came, I expected just another man doing his job, cold, quiet, leave us at the garage and forget us 5 minutes later. He didn't talk much, didn't ask questions, but he gave Ellie his coat, gently buckled her into the passenger seat like he'd done it 1,000 times, and drove us through the storm like we weren't just a burden. I thanked him, barely able to speak. He just nodded, walked away. But when I got back in the car to gather my things, there was an envelope on the dashboard. No name, no return address, just a note that said, "You're stronger than you think. Let this help you breathe." And what was inside changed everything. My name's Rachel. I'm a mother, a waitress, a night cleaner, and, lately, a full-time crisis manager. I wasn't supposed to be doing this alone. But life rarely cares about what you're supposed to have. My daughter, Ellie, is 4 years old. She has big brown eyes, a laugh that breaks through my worst days, and a habit of falling asleep mid-sentence like she knows I'll always finish the story for her. Her father left when she was barely 1. Said he couldn't do it anymore. Said I loved being a mom more than I loved him. He was right. But he was also a coward. Since then, it's just been me and Ellie, building a life out of loose change, late nights, and quiet resilience. I work 2 jobs. During the day, I wait tables at a small breakfast diner with torn booths and regulars who think 15 cents is a generous tip. At night, I clean offices after hours, sweeping crumbs from people who'll never know my name. The money isn't enough. It never is. But it's just barely enough to keep the lights on and gas in the tank, most of the time. My car, a 2005 Honda Civic with a cracked windshield and a driver's side window that won't roll up all the way, is the one thing holding our lives together. It gets Ellie to daycare, me to both jobs, groceries, late-night pharmacy runs, everything. And it's been dying for months. The engine rattles, the battery hiccups in the cold. The check engine light isn't just on. It's been blinking like a warning I don't have time to obey. I'd been pushing my luck for weeks, praying it would just get me through one more shift, one more drop-off, one more Tuesday. That night, it finally gave up. It was raining, not just a soft drizzle, but one of those heavy, constant storms that soaks through your jacket before you can even reach your door. I had just picked Ellie up from daycare. She was tired, clingy, asking if we could stop for juice, even though I knew I had less than $5 in my account. And then the car made a sound I'd never heard before. A sputter, a lurch, and then nothing. The engine died. The wipers froze mid-swipe. I coasted to the side of the road under a flickering streetlight, my hazard lights blinking like a cry for help no one could hear. Ellie asked, "Are we okay?" I lied. "Yes, baby, we're okay." I called roadside assistance. They said someone would be there within the hour. My phone battery was at 3%. I had no portable charger, no nearby friends, no money for an Uber. I wrapped Ellie in a blanket from the back seat, held her on my lap, and watched the storm roll in harder. The windows fogged up. The air smelled like engine heat and fear. I thought about calling my landlord and asking for an extension again. I thought about the past due notice from daycare. I thought about how close I was to falling apart, and I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet tears on my daughter's forehead while I told her everything was going to be fine. By the time the tow truck arrived, I was exhausted, soaked through, shivering, barely keeping it together. A tall man stepped out, heavy jacket, gray beard, no umbrella. He didn't say much, just nodded, looked under the hood, and silently got to work. He didn't ask questions, didn't comment on the state of the car or the mess of toys in the back seat. He just gave me one long look, not pity, not judgment, just recognition, like he'd seen that look in the mirror before. Then he gently reached out, took Ellie from my arms, and wrapped her in his own coat without saying a word. He helped me into the cab of the truck, buckled Ellie in beside me, and drove us to the nearest repair shop. I thanked him 3 times. He didn't answer once. He just nodded again and walked away. I figured that was it, a stranger helping in a storm. But when I turned back to my car to grab the rest of our things, I found the envelope sitting on the dashboard. It hadn't been there before. It wasn't wet. It was just waiting. The envelope sat there like it had always belonged, cream-colored, no markings, no handwriting on the outside, just placed carefully, deliberately, on the passenger seat, like someone had made sure it wouldn't get wet, wouldn't blow away, like it was meant to be found but not explained. I looked around the garage lot, but the tow truck was already gone. No name, no goodbye, just the fading rumble of an engine and the soft patter of rain on metal. My first thought was that it had been left by mistake, maybe a customer's bill, a receipt. I opened it slowly, careful not to tear anything, half expecting it to be nothing at all. But it wasn't nothing. Inside was cash, neatly stacked, counted, held together by a small paper band. I counted it with trembling hands. $2,000. More than 2 months' rent. Enough to fix the car. Enough to get ahead for once. Enough to breathe. And beneath the money was a small, folded note, handwritten in simple blue ink. You're stronger than you think. Let this help you breathe. That was it. No signature, no number, no clue who it was from. But I knew it was him. I walked back inside, heart racing, and asked the mechanic if he knew the driver, the man who dropped off my car. He shrugged. Not sure, he's not on our rotation. Doesn't usually work nights, but I think he helps out from time to time. Old guy, keeps to himself. He doesn't work for you? Not officially. He used to, before his wife passed. Retired, but sometimes he shows up when it's raining. Never says much. That hit me. Shows up when it's raining, like he's looking for someone lost in it. I left the envelope in my purse that night, untouched. I didn't know whether to use it, return it, report it, or just cry harder than I had in years. What kind of person leaves $2,000 for a stranger? What kind of man wraps a child in his own coat and vanishes before anyone can say thank you? Ellie slept soundly that night, tucked into warm pajamas and asking no questions. Kids are resilient like that. Maybe she didn't feel the weight of the moment, or maybe in some way she understood it more clearly than I did. All I knew was that someone had seen us in our lowest moment, and instead of looking away, he gave us grace, not pity, not charity, just the chance to breathe. That night I couldn't sleep. The envelope sat on my kitchen table untouched, the money still neatly stacked inside, the note resting on top. I must have read those 7 words 100 times. You're stronger than you think. Let this help you breathe. I wasn't used to kindness without strings. I'd had boyfriends who expected something in return for a bag of groceries. bosses who held advances over my head like leashes, even family members who reminded me, year after year, how much I owed them for watching Ellie that one time back in 2020. So what was this? What kind of man drops $2,000 in your car and disappears? What was I supposed to do with that? I thought about giving it back, about calling the garage again, about walking into the nearest police station and reporting it like found property. But no one could tell me his name. No one could even confirm he worked there. It was like he'd slipped through the cracks of the world, there just long enough to see us, to save us, and then gone. The next morning I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I called out of work, not because I wanted a break, but because I could. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't panicking. I wasn't calculating gas mileage or skipping breakfast so Ellie could have a full plate. I wasn't counting coins in a grocery line, hoping I didn't go over by 38 cents and have to put something back. I took Ellie to the park, bought her the juice she always asked for, let her pick out new socks at the dollar store, the ones with cartoon bunnies on them. She didn't know why I kept watching her like she might vanish. She just smiled, held my hand, and asked if we could get donuts. I said yes, and when we sat in the booth, her hand sticky with powdered sugar, she looked up at me and said, "You're not sad today." That was the moment I knew I was going to use the money, not to run away, not to escape, to rebuild, to buy a better car, pay down the daycare bill, catch up on rent, to give us breathing room, to give us a chance to live like people again, not like shadows. But more than anything, I wanted to know why. I went back to the garage 2 days later. The same guy was at the front desk. I showed him the note. "Do you know who gave this to me?" He looked at it and nodded slowly. If I had to guess, I'd say that was James. James? Used to work here, retired 5-6 years back. His wife got sick, then passed, changed him, said he didn't want to live quiet. Said if he saw someone stuck in the rain, he'd stop, because no one did that for her when she needed it most. So now he does. I felt a lump in my throat. How do I find him? The man shook his head gently. You don't. He finds you. I left a thank you note at the front desk anyway, just in case. I wrote that I'd used the money to fix my car, that Ellie was safe, that I hadn't cried in 2 days, and that was a record. And I wrote, I'll find a way to pass this forward, I promise, because now I know what it feels like when the rain stops, even just for a minute. Weeks passed. The envelope was gone, the money spent where it needed to be, responsibly, carefully, without waste. But the impact of it, that stayed. It followed me into every moment that used to carry dread. The first time my car started without a prayer, I smiled. The first time I dropped Ellie off at daycare without wondering if they'd ask about the overdue balance, I exhaled. The first time I opened my fridge and saw more than condiments and half a lemon, I cried, quietly, gratefully. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. The driver, James, not just about what he gave me, but why. That note. You're stronger than you think. Let this help you breathe. It was written like someone who knew, not guessed, knew. Like he had stood exactly where I was and remembered what it felt like to sink slowly until someone offered a hand no one else could see. So I kept asking questions, quietly, at the garage, around town. I didn't want to chase him down. I just wanted to understand. One night, a woman who worked part-time at the front desk slipped me something, a worn sheet of folded paper. She said James had left it there once after helping another customer. Said she thought he might have meant to throw it away, but never did. Inside was a letter, handwritten, jagged edges. No envelope, just ink that had faded at the edges, and words that felt like they'd been written with weight in every stroke. It wasn't addressed to anyone specific, but it may as well have been written to me. I used to think kindness was for people with time to spare, people with money, people with clean hands and steady hearts. But then my wife got sick, and I learned how wrong I was. No one tells you how much you lose while you're trying to save someone. The hours, the stability, the identity. One night, her car broke down. She waited in the rain for 3 hours before someone finally stopped. A teenager with jumper cables and a smile. She got home shivering, but alive. She died 5 months later, but she never forgot that boy. She said, "He didn't save my life. He saved my faith in people." So now, when I see someone stuck in the rain, I stop. Not because I can fix everything, but because maybe I can fix one thing. No one should drown just because the world is too busy to notice. I read it 3 times before folding it back up and tucking it into my wallet, where I still keep it today, because that's what he did for me. He didn't fix my whole life, but he fixed one moment, and that moment gave me the strength to fix the rest. Not with miracles, but with breathing room and hope, and a reminder that even in the middle of a storm, someone might still stop. It's been almost a year since that rainy night. Ellie is taller now, still wild-haired and bright-eyed, still asking questions that make me laugh when I should be crying. The car is still running, not perfect, but solid, paid off, reliable, just like me. And every now and then, when the clouds roll in and the sky gets that thick, gray look, I still think about him. James, I never saw him again. Not in the garage, not around town, not even a whisper of his name, except for that one story, that folded letter, that envelope that changed everything. I never used to believe in things like fate or signs or second chances, but something about that night made me start to wonder. Maybe people are like sparks, passing each other in the dark, never knowing when one small light might set off a chain reaction. So I made a choice, not just to survive, but to create moments like that for other people. Quiet ones, invisible ones, no thanks required. Every month I put together little rain kits, zip pouches filled with an umbrella, a snack bar, a $10 gas card, and a handwritten note. Nothing fancy, just enough. Each note says something different, but every single one ends the same way. You're stronger than you think. Let this help you breathe. I leave them where they might matter most. Laundromats, bus stops, daycare lobbies, parking lots during a storm. Sometimes I imagine James standing nearby, watching with that same quiet expression, hands in his pockets, nodding like he's saying, "Good, now you get it." I still work 2 jobs, but one of them is now mine. A friend from the garage helped me launch a small cleaning service. It's not big, but it's enough. I hire other single moms when I can. We trade stories, share resources, help each other out in the small, stubborn ways women do when no one else will. And every time I watch one of them exhale, just once, like they're finally catching their breath again, I know, the ripple is still moving. The man who handed me that envelope never asked for credit, never even stayed to see what I did with it. But what he gave me wasn't just money. He gave me proof that even on the worst night, someone might still stop, someone might still care, and that was enough. Enough to lift my head, enough to keep going, enough to pass it on.